Well, good morning and welcome to our third advanced group preparation session. This one is called P2P orders, but I have to tell you a lot of what we're going to be discussing. The majority of it doesn't necessarily have to do with P2P orders and the related assets. We're going to cover a lot of topics today and discuss some of the feedback that we received last week and how we are going to be addressing that. I think that you'll be just as excited as I am about how we've addressed those concerns. So some Zoom reminders. Today is a webinar, and as I'm becoming more skilled in using Zoom, I'm learning about all different things. So webinars are really good for Q&A and also for making sure that those Q&A or those questions are separated from the chat. So use the chat for anything except questions, and then use the Q&A for questions. There is also, this is being recorded, as you know, and it will be available on the training site. The previous two have been posted, so feel free to take a look at those if you were not able to join for the one on the 22nd or the 29th last Friday. They are available. I do want to mention one thing that you might have missed, because I know we send you a lot of communications. You might have missed this. The links to these sessions are registrant specific. So what does that mean? It means when you register, that link is attached to your name. So sharing that link, it can cause some issues because it looks like you're signing in, but it's someone else that's signing in with your name. So it can be a little bit confusing. So just make sure you're not sharing the link so we can make sure that everybody gets to the webinar and are named appropriately in it. I did just want to mention that. The other thing I want to talk about too is while I'm presenting or speaking, it's really hard for me to monitor the chat and address questions and or comments while I'm doing that. I wish I could do two things at once, and I wish I had like a clone Sarah that could handle that, although it would probably be a little confusing if I'm speaking about what I'm presenting and answering questions at the same time. So just please keep that in mind, that I'm not ignoring you and I don't want you to feel like I am. If we have time at the end for questions, we will absolutely take them then. And if you have them, please make sure you enter them in the Q&A portion. So I did just want to mention that. So about our presenters today, as most of you know me, if you don't, I'm Sarah Lewis. I'm the training lead for the new EVA platform. I'm very happy to be in that role. We also have Jamie and Amani joining us again. They are our senior consultants at CGI that I've been working with, really working with so much. And as I've always said, they're so patient with me. And listen to my goofy stories, and they've just been fantastic. And then we actually have a new person from InfoPro joining us, Sam. He is fantastic. He joined the team last week. Was it last week? Yeah, it was last week. So he is joining us. He's one of the senior learning experience architects at InfoPro, and he is based in India. A lot of their employees are there. And one of the things I want to mention is this is a big week for them. It's Diwali, for those of you who don't know. It's a 5-day celebration. It's basically like what, if you're not familiar with it, it would be like a Christmas or a Hanukkah. It's a big deal. So the fact that they have really stepped up and made sure that we address your concerns during this week is a big deal. And the fact that they're able to join today. It's basically like we've asked them to join on their Christmas day, and they have graciously accepted and been helping us. So thank you to InfoPro. And you guys do not have to keep your cameras on now that I've introduced all of you if you don't want to. And if we have time at the end for questions, I'll just ask you to turn them back on then. Thank you. So quick little timeline we're going to look at here for just a moment. Should look similar. We've seen it in the past. you are attending the group preparation sessions now, we do have the opportunity to at some point schedule some interactive Q&A sessions. However, I will say we have a bug meeting on Monday, which I'll talk about a little bit more. The interactive Q&A sessions that we have the opportunity to schedule if we need them are going to be training specific though. So bug meetings are different from those interactive Q&As. And as I said, it's kind of on an as needed basis if we feel like, hey, we think our trainers would benefit from just doing a big Q&A session similar to the bug meeting, but training specific, it is something we can talk about. So I want to go over the agenda for today because it's going to be a little bit different than the previous preparation sessions. So first, I want to go over some of what we talked about last week, some of the concerns we heard and what we're doing to address those concerns. We want you to know that we've heard you and that we value your opinions and your feedback and that we're trying to make improvements based on that. I'm going to show you an LMS demo. I'm hoping that this will help you kind of visualize what your learners are going to go through when they log in and what they'll see. And the folks at VIP were nice enough to help me set this up. It's basically kind of an example of a learning journey. Everything's not populated in there, but it is something that'll at least help you visualize exactly what your learners will go through. Then I want to talk about teachbacks and VILTs. I know there's still been some ambiguity around those. And I just want to go over some recommendations that we have for you when it comes to the VILT sessions and even when you're practicing, when you're doing your teachbacks. We're also going to do a schedule overview. What can you look forward to that's coming up? Go over some dates so that everybody's aware. November is a very busy month for all of us. So I want to make sure that everybody is aware of what's happening when. And then we're going to talk about next steps. And there is also a survey after today, but it's not really a survey question. It's similar to what we did last week. But this time, I want to know what else can we do to assist you. So that's the survey question that will be available as soon as this webinar is over. So feel free to put your thoughts in there. I will show you in just a second that we absolutely do look at them, and we want to make sure that your concerns are addressed. So first part of we heard you and here's what we're doing is I want to address some of the survey feedback from last week. I absolutely hear that it's been a little bit difficult, that the assets are out of order. It's not the ideal presentation method that we would like to provide you the assets in, but if we had been able to wait until everything was in order, it would have caused delays in the content drops. What do I mean by that? So to give you a better understanding, if we had waited until everything was available so that we could put it in order, your first content drop to review would have been today. Or this week. So that's why we kind of had to decide, do we want to give them information when we can, if it's not in necessarily the order we want them to be in, or do we want to wait and give it to them at the end? So it's kind of, there's risk involved in both of those, right? But we wanted to get you the information, even if it wasn't in the package that it will be in for your users. So that's the reason for that. And I certainly understand it's not ideal, and I appreciate everyone's patience as we continue to deal with reviewing the assets. Also, there was a great comment about make sure that we consult instructional designers. I have to tell you that our awesome folks at InfoPro, they're actually a global leader in managed learning services. So I assure you we're in good hands. They are used to making trainings, especially e-learnings and virtual training. So we are in good hands with them. And I pulled this quote directly from their website because I thought it really captured what we're doing, which is defining the new normal by crafting unique learning experiences, because we're moving from that classroom into a more flexible, on-demand type training. So I promise you, we are in good hands with InfoPro, and they are continuing to help us. And I think I'll be able to show you some more of that today about what we've managed to do in the last week to make sure we've met your concerns. Also, I know that there are many questions that still remain. That's what I got out of the survey also. So in order to address this and make sure that people are getting their questions answered, Shane and Kim really jumped on this last week and said, hey, we've heard you. We've scheduled a bug meeting. It is on Monday. Come prepared to ask questions. What I will say is make sure that you take a look at the transition newsroom, the training, and the testing sites, depending on what your question is, because there might be a question that you have that is answered there. And I know that it can be, daunting to look through the information. It's something that I do, and I kind of just search for my question or a question that someone's asking me. So feel free to take a look there before creating your list of questions. You might find that there's an answer in there. Also, looking forward to Summit. We are going to be, breaking into different sessions with not only the EVA update, but also having subjects like P2P and catalogs and sourcing and contracts. And we'll be able to show you a demo with our CGI folks, and then also take questions in those sessions as well. So hopefully we're providing you with a lot of opportunities to ask questions so that we can address your concerns. So here's what else we're doing. The other big thing that I heard last week was the need for quick guides. So quick guides will be rolled out beginning next Friday, and all of them will be available by the end of the month. InfoPro took in the concerns from last week about this and the want and the need for these, and they are making sure that these are addressed and made them a priority because we understand it's something that you want to see. This is just a little preview of a screenshot of our one for simple sourcing. I think that you'll find them really easy to follow. And you can see too, it has the steps that you're looking for, and then the steps referring to the screenshot as well. So I am very excited about that, and I hope that you are too. I hope having something in hand that you can use and also provide to your end users will be helpful and maybe alleviate some of the understandable anxiety that we're all having with the new platform. Hopefully this will help. So the other thing that we heard that thought was absolutely something we could address was the advanced viewing of the learning journeys before your learners actually have an opportunity to take a look at them. So end user training will begin rollout next week. And what I mean by that is that you will have the opportunity to view the requisition or learning journey next week. And then the following week after Summit, because we want to make sure that you are able to pay attention and enjoy the information that you're receiving there without having to worry about looking at the learning journeys. And I'm talking about your users at this point, because you'll already have the opportunity next week to view them, that they will be able to start on that afterward. I also was thinking maybe it would be helpful for you to see a kind of an example of what the learning journey will look like in the LMS. So I worked with Jessie from VIP, and she was super helpful and was able to set up kind of, for lack of a better term, like a dummy learning journey so you can see what it's going to look like. Sometimes that stuff can be really hard to conceptualize unless you see it. So I am going to stop sharing my screen right now, and I will bring that up. And I will continue sharing my screen. awesome. And hopefully everybody can see the, hopefully you're all seeing the VIP landing page. So this is my account, and let's say I'm a learner that is just going in for the first time. They won't necessarily have all of the same courses that I will. This is the pathway that we want to take a look at. It's the requisitioner one. Again, this is not populated with everything, but we wanted to get you something so that you could see and get a feel for what your learners will be experiencing. So you can see that there's different types of course content, and that there is an introduction here. And in that introduction, we have a video and an infographic. So it's kind of like an introduction to the requisitioner's learning pathway, their learning journey, and they are able to start the video from here, look at the high-level infographic. And then also, once they have completed that, you can see that I started watching the video but haven't necessarily completed it. They can go into the parts of their learning journey that are self-paced, which are really divided into the P card and catalog sections. And I also think there's the requisitioner one, and then requisition orders, which you all have also looked at already, but it'll look cleaner when your learners see it, and it's even cleaner here rather than just referring to the resources library. So here's what I think we all need to remember as trainers is all of the self-paced stuff, all of the learning journeys, you don't have to do anything with those items. The self-paced, making sure people have what they need from a learning journey perspective. You don't have to see who's or ask who has completed what. That will be available also. The big thing that you will want to take a look at is what they're calling here, it's an ILC, but I call it an ILT, instructor-led training or instructor-led course. This is where you as trainers will be participating. And then here's the cool thing is there's not any actual course in here because that's something you're going to be doing instead of logging in and doing it through the LMS. And then here's where they will upload that certificate of completion as a learner. And then either I will go in or a member of my team will go in and verify that it is the certificate you provided them with. So if you think about it this way, that you kind of don't have to worry about anything until you get to those VILTs, and we'll talk a little bit more about recommendations for those. But what I'm hoping is that you are seeing how this is going to flow. The other thing I want to bring your attention to is if for some reason there is a part of one of these courses that's part of the requisitioner's learning journey that is not required, but it's something that we think that they might want to see, that will be in this second part of that course content. It'll basically be listed as a resource, which just means that it is not something that is required for them to continue on in the learning journey or to have their badge as saying they've taken the requisitioner training. So that is something to keep in mind. I think that's another really cool part of the LMS. And like I said, you'll be able to see the completed one next week prior to your learners seeing it. I will caution you though that at this time, because we are up against those tight timelines that we all know we're part of, we can't make changes at this point, but I am willing to collect your feedback, and it's something we can do at a later date. It's just with the time constraints we have, we can't make changes. So you can absolutely view them and take a look and absolutely give me your feedback, but it might not be something that we can incorporate right away. Just so you are aware, I don't want to promise you anything that I cannot deliver on. So I am going to stop sharing. And I'm going to go back into our PowerPoint. So hopefully that demo was something that you found helpful and useful. And as I said, end user training, you'll get to see it next week and they'll get to see it the following week. That's actually something we just spoke with Jesse about earlier today, right before this meeting. So we're working and making sure your concerns are addressed all the way up until meeting time this week. And then the other thing that we heard about is, hey, Sarah, like everything's disjointed. We want to see the big picture. We want to see it from a high level so that we can see exactly how things are going to work together. So part of that is an interactive PDF that our super highly skilled folks at InfoPro are working on. We do have a preview of what that will look like. And since they have been working hard on this, even during a holiday week for us, I'm going to let Vishali, who's also one of the fantastic team members at InfoPro, explain this a little bit more because she'll do a much better job than I will. So Vishali, feel free to jump in and take it away, and I will move it to the next slide when you would like me to.
Thank you, Sarah. Hi, everyone. This is Vishali, and my role primarily is to ensure the success of this project at InfoPro Learning. So we heard you last time, and like Sarah said, we've introduced another interactive PDF to give a big picture of the transaction flow, as well as a drill down of what happens on each of these transactions as you go on. So as you can see on the slide, this slide might be familiar. You've already seen this asset before, where we've described or laid out the entire flow for a buyer. And what we plan to do is for each of these elements that you see on the screen, for example, requisition orders, shopping, solicitation, contract, we plan to do a drill down. So Sarah, if you can go to the next screen. So on this screen, when you click requisition, an entire picture of the requisition process flow is provided end to end in terms of where you start and where a buyer really ends in the requisition process. Now, each of these elements is a step in itself. So for example, the first one you see there, create or browse requisitions. It has its own list of steps when you look at the system. So the next step, what we do is provide a further drill down of each of these steps. So these will be clickable. You can click any of these steps and view a list of step list. So Sarah, on the next slide, if you see, so here when you click the first element, you see a trail of sub steps that one needs to follow to be able to create and browse requisition, along with a screenshot. So going to the next screen. Along with a screenshot. Now this might look deterred right now. It is work in progress. It is all draft. So the screenshot, it definitely looks deterred, but the idea is to provide a screenshot along with a good step list in terms of, the big picture, and then, the process flow for requisition for each of the flow items in the flow chart. Now this is a further drill down of a step list. So it takes you down from a very high level view to the minutest detail of that process. So which will, this whole asset will help us link the transaction flows with what happens in the system at the level of each click. So that's the whole idea that we wanted to bring to the table.
Awesome. Thank you, Vishali, for explaining that. And yes, I should mention we wanted to show you a preview. This is something that InfoPro and CGI came up with as a response to your concerns from last session. And if you think about the fact that the state also had a holiday in there, and also with Diwali, the fact that they've even, gotten this far in the process, we're just so appreciative, and we wanted to share with you that it is something that we are working on. And as soon as it's ready and perfect, we will show it to you in all of its awesome glory, because I think it'll be neat to have that interactive PDF. So thank you again. So I want to talk a little bit about teachback/VILTs, because it's something that I'm sure that you're concerned about and maybe a little anxious, because it's like, oh, this new platform and now I'm going to be training on it. So I hopefully will be giving you some information that will ease your anxiety. I know some of you have heard this before, but I do just want to repeat it, and then also talk about some written documentation that I'll be providing, as well as going over this today. So one of the things we decided is that we want you guys to use whatever virtual meeting software you'd like to use. I just have some examples there: Meets, Teams, and Zoom. Also, if you are able to do it in a safe way, in person is also an option. It's whatever you would like to do, whatever works best for you and your end users. We want to make sure that we're being as flexible as possible with that, because we know that what works for some might not work for others. Also, using that PowerPoint as a foundation that we provided you. Yes, it is has Zoom information on it in the beginning, and it's something that we use when we thought that is the platform that we were going to be using. But what we talk about at the beginning of those slide decks that are provided to you are the different types of Zoom features, which actually are available across most of the virtual meeting software. They just might be called different things. And you also don't have to use them unless you want to. Maybe you have a small group of end users you'll be training, and you want to hear from them, and it's more in a meeting setting where they can, unmute and you can have discussions. It's really just to use as a foundation. Feel free to customize it for your end users. I know that there were some folks that said, hey, the scenario that you have in this one PowerPoint presentation doesn't really apply to our end users, or mostly in the IT side. Not a problem. Feel free to swap that out for an IT related example. Totally fine to do. Also, we had talked about earlier this week in all of our communications, to make sure we address your concerns, that that your end users know who you are, and they might, which is fantastic, because you all are good communicators, and I'm sure that they know. But just remind them, if you have an ability to communicate with them as a whole, just so they know where to go when it is time for these VILTs. The good thing is we're probably going to put a email together that comes through the LMS after they've completed their self-paced, that says, hey, you have completed your self-paced. You will now be able to participate in your virtual instructor-led training. Please contact your trainer at your specific entity. So hopefully that will help as well, and it will take some of the burden off you to reach out to them. But I just want to make sure that they know who you are, and that you are there as their awesome EVA trainer. Also, what I said, written recommendations forthcoming. So basically, I know that I used to have teach back instructions on the training website, and I will have those back up on Monday with this updated information, so that everybody can be on the same page. Again, they are just recommendations. You feel free to teach those individual virtual instructor-led sessions how you see best works for you, your end users. If you need assistance, or maybe you're practicing and something comes up and you just want to bounce an idea off me, absolutely, please let me know. But I'm hoping that, similar to those guides that we have that are coming, the quick guides, that having these written recommendations for you might also be helpful, so that you have something to go from as you're customizing the training for your end users. So let's take a look at the schedule also, because this was new this week and it is on the website. We have broken out the content drops for 4 into 3 individual drops. The reason we want to do that is because we didn't want to wait until the 12th, which is right before forum, to get you all of the information that you need. We wanted to give it to you in the chunks, which might not be what some of you prefer and might not be ideal, but we figured it's better to get you information as it becomes available rather than waiting until everything's in that nice package. So you had the first one this week, and then there will be 2 next week. You've noticed that there aren't as many assets in there. I don't think there are going to be many for the subsequent 2, and your feedback is not due until after Summit. So you can see that the feedback due date for all 3 of those is 11/19, which is the Friday after Summit. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of breathing time. And again, it's not anything that is too crazy, or hope not too crazy from a review standpoint. I know I had previously mentioned last week that content drop 5 and 6 would be internal only. The way it is working out, and in order to make sure that we address some of the concerns from last week, there are only going to be very few assets in 5 that we will need the trainers to look at, and they pertain to contracts. The rest of them will be internal, and drop 6 will be internal, so you don't have to worry about that. There also won't be an advanced group preparation session after that content drop 5, so you won't have to worry about participating in that either. Right after the 19th, you can really start preparing. And then if there are assets in the contracts that you would like to incorporate, you'll be able to view those as well. Obviously, that's going to be a smaller portion of the learners and the trainers that might want to do that. So try not to worry about that too much. I know it's anxious, can be a little, give you a little anxiety to see that December date, but I promise it will all be okay. And I think that using our time this last week to address your concerns was hopefully more beneficial, and we'll get to some Q&A in a second because I talked faster than I thought I would today. Also, there are 2 remaining advanced preparation sessions. One is on the 10th and one is on the 12th. They are both next week. Invitations to register will be sent out on Monday for both of these. I know you're thinking, okay, Sarah, is it going to go like it did before or like today? Today, I really wanted to focus on letting you know what we've done in the last week to make sure that you feel a little less anxious, a little more prepared, a little more confident in the material. Next week, I'm thinking we're going to move back to really focusing on these 2 topics. I think that because these 2 might be a little more involved for a lot of us, that it will be a good time to just focus on those. And remember, if there are any types of functionality questions when it comes to either of these, those will be addressed at the bug meeting on Monday. Can't say that enough. I just think that that was an absolutely fantastic result of the concerns that were shared. So hopefully you feel that way as well. And another just little timeline, just to remind you where you are. We kind of went over this already to talk about, what we have next, and hopefully you're excited for the additional content drops, getting some good feedback there, getting some good constructive criticism. It is something that we're reviewing, and providing a type of update where we can. And again, we might have some interactive Q&A sessions that are training specific. So really depends on time. Like I said, November is a really busy month, not only from the training perspective and the summit, but also we have the holidays coming up at the end of the month, which I'm sure we're all looking forward to. So this is the survey question that I mentioned, but I know that you guys still probably have some other questions, and we do have a little bit of time. So I will stop sharing and let's take a look at some of the questions that you have. Just going to bring up my Q&A session, or my section, I should say. So Tony, it looks like Amani is answering one of your questions, but I'll go into this next one. So if they have more than one set of training to do, for example, requisition and orders, the orders training material will not be available to them until you have confirmation from us that they have completed the requisition ILT. No, great question, because I know it can be confusing. The way that we are asking VIP to set it up, and they've been excellent and flexible with us, is that they will go through all of the self-paced training in the requisitioner journey, no matter if it has to do with requisitions, orders, or catalog, before they get to any of the virtual instructor-led sessions. What we're hoping that does, it gives them an opportunity to take a look at everything, to go through the assessment before they come to you as a trainer, which also hopefully gives you some time to prepare, and hopefully you've already started doing some preparation. So great question. No, the VILTs, all of them in the requisitioner journey, will come after all of the self-paced stuff, not one at a time. Does the buyer have the ability to choose which VILT course they wish to take, or must they be taken sequentially? So they'll be able to take any of the self-paced stuff. I believe it is not paced at this moment, meaning they can take what they would like to. We are going to make sure or recommend that they take them in order, but I don't want to block anybody from taking anything. And then the really cool thing about that is once the other journeys are available, including the ones outside of requisitioners is what I'm talking about, they'll be able to unlock all of those other types of training after they've taken their recommended training journey. But oh, I'm sorry, you said which VILT course they wish to take. They'll have to take, they won't have to take them in order. So no, I guess that was I should have read that question a little bit better. So hopefully that answers it. And then from Dean, I do worry about the use of blocks of color with white text over top, as that could cause some accessibility issues. There needs to be much greater contrast in selected colors. There seems to be a running theme in the PDF guides. And I have, Amani saw your question, and we're going to go back and make sure that it doesn't cause accessibility issues. That is something that we discussed with InfoPro and CGI at the beginning, and we will just double check and make sure that any accessibility issues are addressed if we do find any. That is very important though, so thank you, Dean, for bringing up that information. At what point do we need to ensure our staff have VIP access? Should we instruct staff to reach out to DGS now to register for VIP? No. So here's the really cool thing, is anybody that does not have VIP access will be sent, basically, you've already been signed up, we just need you to train or change your password. So they won't have to go in and do any of that. We're really trying to take some of that responsibility away from them, so they don't have to worry about also registering if they don't have one already. Now, those are for people that only don't have a VIP account already. So no, don't ask them to reach out to us unless for some reason they didn't get an email about logging in. And remember, we're doing that requisitioner training journey first. Okay, you guys do a demo of the VILTs. I realize you may have to make it more of a webinar because of the amount of people, but it may be helpful to watch you run through one of each type of VILT. I don't know if you'll be able to do a full one at Forum, nor do I know if everybody will be able to attend whichever session they'll be in. That is a great idea, and maybe what I can do is look into some possibilities with that, even if it's just a small portion of a demo for each of them, so that you can see what that's going to look like. I know might not be a full one form that you're looking for, but if Amani and Jamie, if you wouldn't mind taking that down, and we can kind of discuss how we can address that question. Thank you, Tony. For scheduling and planning purposes, what time will the sessions mentioned for next Wednesday and Friday be? They should be at 10 a.m. just like these sessions are. We really tried to fit them in before forum. Great question. Sorry, this may be repetitive, but are you saying that they have to take the online recommended training before they can be trained by the trainers in our agency? Not repetitive at all, Lisa. So here's what's going to happen is they will go through all of the self-paced in their recommended learning journey, and then they will be trained by the trainers at their entity for that VILT portion. Anything prior to that will be self-paced for them, and they'll be able to complete everything before that time. These are great questions, and I am hoping that people are finding what we were able to address in a short period of time helpful. You are such great trainers and have given great feedback, and we want to make sure that you know that we are listening and that we are reacting and hopefully addressing some of those concerns. I know I keep saying that. It seems to be the theme of today is addressing your concerns, but there are important concerns, and we want to make sure that you feel supported. And as Shane mentioned last week, we're all in the same boat together. And the one thing we can promise you is that we're not going anywhere, and training's not going anywhere. We will be here. We're all in this together, and we will make sure that questions get answered and support is provided. So I do not see any other questions unless I am missing one. Make sure that no other ones come through. These are great questions. Let's go to Tony's first question. Will there be a quick guide or instructions we can provide to our users on how to sign on to VIP, find the training, and take the training? That will be helpful. So we can absolutely create something. They won't have to sign up if they don't have a VIP account. That's something that will be done for them if they don't have one. But we can absolutely maybe do a one-page quick guide, like you said, that like, hey, here's what you're going to do, here's what it's going to look like, and here's how the training is going to flow. Totally understand why that would be very helpful, and that is something that we can make sure that we address as well. So Amani and Jamie, if you wouldn't mind making a note of that also, and we can make sure that that is addressed. Okay. And I had another question come in. We may wish the users to take some of the self-paced and then hold our own training sessions in-house outside of the VILT. Do you see issues with this plan? So I think what you're saying, Vicky, is that you're going to do your own training after the self-paced. That's absolutely fine. These are recommendations. If there is something that you would like to do outside and not call it VILT, that's absolutely fine. The one thing I would encourage and recommend is that there's still some type of completion documentation that's uploaded. And the only reason I say that is so that we can make sure that you're aware and we're aware of those metrics around who's completed what, so that we can let you as trainers know, hey, it looks like this person still needs to take some type of instructor-led training, or maybe they have already. That's something that, again, leave up to you, but it is something that I would like to recommend. So we have to, no, you do not have to track their training. The LMS will track who is taking what from a self-paced standpoint. And then on the VILTs, and I'll go into this a little bit more. I think we had discussed it last week, but I know there were a lot of things discussed, so I don't mind going over it again. So in order to track their VILTs, because we understand you as trainers will want to see that data, that whoever takes your virtual instructor-led training sessions, you then provide them with a certificate of completion that they can then upload to their learning journey, and then we can verify and make sure that it is they've taken the training. But that's so you don't have to track it, and it also puts the onus back on the end user to upload that, not you. So hopefully that answers your question and is helpful. Okay, I do not, we have another one. Are we providing a list of names for those who need automatic access to VIP, or is this something based on the information currently in EVA? Yep, so this is, you do not need to be providing the names. This is something I think we talked about a while ago, so happy to refresh everyone's memory. We are working and have worked with Anna, who is our data analyst, to take a look at not only what the transactions are for the current users that we have, there are over 11,000, but also the roles that they have. And based on their transactions or their roles is how we came up with the recommended learning journey. And based on information, yeah, okay, I think I answered that. Stephanie, if I didn't, feel free to type something, another question in there. Where do I get access to last week's session? Both sessions last week and the week prior to that are available on the training website. They are listed in chronological order from our first one, I think that was back in September. And then this one should be posted sometime next week. Okay, I do not see any other questions. So remember that there is a survey that's not really a survey. Remember, we just want to know what else could we do to assist you as a trainer. We will try our best to address them, just like we tried our best to address your concerns from last week. But obviously, we're working with time constraints, and we're still making sure that everything becomes available as soon as possible in the nicest package possible. So we might not be able to take all of your recommendations of what we can do to assist you, but it's absolutely something that we will keep. And if we can't implement it before go live, it's absolutely something we can do after. Remember, this is a constant feedback loop, and that we are going to always take feedback, and training isn't going anywhere. We're not going to drop you off. I think I said last week, and I kind of like this, in EVA land, it kind of makes it sound like it's an amusement park, which sure, we can absolutely look at it as that. It makes it fun. We won't drop you off in EVA land and leave you there. We'll be able to provide support after the fact. So hopefully you found this session helpful, and I will talk to you all next week. Be on the lookout for those invitations and our upcoming content drops. And as always, thank you for being fantastic trainers. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your participation. So thank you. I'm going to go ahead and I will